This is the Asian Film Review with Adam.
And Captain Banana.
Captain Banana. I did not see that one coming. So today we're doing a director review, and we're doing it for Chan-wook Park, who we'll just refer to as Park to make it easy at this point. So he was born August 23rd, 1963, South Korean film director, screenwriter, producer, and former film critic. Oh my god, which I had no idea. But one of the most acclaimed and popular filmmakers in his native country, Park is most known for his films Joint Security Area, Thirst, and what has become known as the Vengeance trilogy, consisting of 2002, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy in 2003, Sympathy for Lady Vengeance in 2005. His films are noted for their immaculate framing, black humor, and often brutal subject matter. I really fumbled my way through that one, but oh well. And he is a Leo. So, I know the answer to this, but when did you first become familiar with him?
It was Joint Security Area. No, like most people, it was Old Boy.
Yeah. Yep, I think even at the start of the Vengeance trilogy started at Old Boy, and some people went back to Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, but I don't think the Vengeance trilogy got really popular until Old Boy, so...
Yeah. I would guess they probably had like a theme planned of, like a revenge themed set of movies. I don't think it really became the Revenge trilogy until Old Boy blew up the way it did.
Yeah, well, after, if I'm remembering the quote properly, which I may not, but after he made Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, his wife kind of pushed him to do Old Boy, and then Lady Vengeance followed up, so. So we are covering 4 films, because there's not... We're covering 4 instead of 5, because in this case we're somewhat familiar with the director. So we are covering today in year of... What's the release time in here? So Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, I'm a Cyborg, but That's Okay, Thirst, and then Stoker. So that's the order we're going to be covering. As far as other films go, I've only seen the other 2 Sympathy films, or Old Boy and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, but I haven't seen Joint Security Area. And
you've seen the his installment in the Three Extremes movie, right?
Yes. I kind of forgotten about the Three Extremes. That's another thing that was very popular, and I have a feeling if I revisit it, I'm not going to like it at all.
Yeah, no, probably not. I'm going to say I wanted to rewatch his segment in that because I remember hating it, but I just never got around to it.
Yeah, the other one that he was credited with that I forgot to write down here, it's 60 Seconds in Solitude? 0? Does that sound familiar? Something along those lines. It's like a ABCs of Death that was released in Japan. It just has like a shitload of directors, but I haven't really heard it touted very much, so I've kind of been putting it off to actually check it out. But it's one just loaded with a bunch of big name directors, and I think even Tsukamoto might have one in there, but they're like 60 seconds short is the idea too. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's somewhat of interest, but we'll see.
Yeah, because I think Tsukamoto has actually participated in a couple like movies like that, but I can't be entirely sure without wasting time looking it up.
He did one for Female, which celebrated 3 stories of just women. I don't remember the context if it was just revenge or drama. But I didn't get to his segment because I found the first one so boring. I should have just went to his and checked it out, but oh well.
Was Hayes part of a set like that, or was it its own short film?
It was a short film that was expanded.
Yeah, I remember that detail. I just couldn't remember if it was a standalone movie or if
I think he made it into he made it into short. I don't know if the short was like released in any way, or if he just started with a short and decided to expand it instead of release it as a short. So
I think you can still get it as a short film. I'm actually pretty sure it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime as in the short version.
I am doubtful it's on Netflix.
Yeah, and say it's on one of those because I saw it, I was like, oh, it's one I haven't seen yet, and I was like, oh, it's the short version. Never mind.
Yeah. So you haven't watched Haze?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. But anyway, back to Park, or else we'll just talk about Tsukamoto. I did jot down some...
I'd be totally okay with that.
I did jot down some quotes from him. Now, like when you're quoted a lot, I think sometimes you say stupid things. So either he just says a lot of stupid things, or people like to ask him to do all these different quotes, because I really didn't like the majority of the quotes that were actually down on IMDb, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I wanted to break a few of these down because some of them are somewhat funny. So a few ones start off here that are decent. So, I don't feel enjoyment watching films that evoke passivity. If you need that kind of comfort, I don't understand why you wouldn't go to a spa. I guess that's kind of elitist in a way.
Yeah. I'm say I've seen the notes that you made of his quotes, and I mean, this man is just so far up his own ass.
Well, that's what I'm trying to give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt. And I scrapped a bunch of quotes because there was several. So basically I'm throwing out the question, when is such violence justified? To get that question to touch the audience physically and directly, that's what my goal is. In the experience of watching my film, I don't want the viewer to stop at the mental or the intellectual. I want them to feel my work physically. And because that is one of my goals, the title exploitive will probably follow me around for quite a while.
That's not unreasonable.
No, I don't think so. Now, this is one where I think he was kind of oblivious to this fact, and someone might have kind of pushed him in the way to say this dumb quote. I can see why my films remind people of computer games, but I've never played one. Actually, I was approached by a Japanese designer of a PlayStation game called Metal Gear Solid. When I met him, I found out that there was nothing really to talk about, but I was told I was idolized in the world of computer games. That just sounds like a grandpa like trying to associate with kids nowadays. Very popular in the world of computer games.
What's interesting about that quote is I can't think of the guy's name who did Metal Gear Solid. It's escaping me right now, but I know he's a big Tsukamoto fan.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing.
I know.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's probably why he met with him in the first place. More an issue of being a fan and having an opportunity to meet someone he idolized versus necessarily wanting him involved in the game.
Yeah, because I don't think Tsukamoto's involved, but there's like a mutual respect there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when a hero decides to take revenge, their hitherto tedious life has ended and they are born again as a completely different person. With the completion of revenge in sight, the hero has to face the fact that their pleasure up until that point must come to an end. So I think that's fair. That kind of summarizes a lot of revenge flicks.
Yeah. I'd say it's also heavily like intellect. Nah, never mind. Fuck it. I don't have anything nice to say, so I'm not going to say anything.
So this one is extremely pretentious. I made a note here, pretentious level max. So he was asked about who influenced his directing style. He said, I don't know if you've noticed this in my films, but I think I'm influenced by Kafka. I like his work very much. what would Kafka do in the scene? I don't like that. The surrealism and absurdity, I begin to like things because of his work. So I don't see that in the slightest. It almost seems like just trying to drop the name of Kafka just to say it.
Yeah. I would agree completely.
Yep, it's like when you're hanging out with someone, they try to feign that they're pseudo-intellectual. They'll throw out names like that. So I'm sure he's a very intelligent human being and very capable, just looking at his films. But just a quote like that is, from anyone else's mouth, I would just assume they're instantly just garbage people. But from him, I'll give him a bit more leeway. But that is extremely pretentious.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break up the film. So we're kind of going to go back and forth. Each one of us took turns making notes on the film. So you have one, I have two, and then you have one. So I'll let you kick off with Sympathy for Lady Vengeance.
Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, also known as Lady Vengeance, 2006. After a 13-year imprisonment for the kidnap and murder of a 6-year-old boy, Guam Ja-Lee seeks vengeance on the man truly responsible for the boy's death. With the help of fellow inmates and reunited with her daughter, she gets closer and closer to her goal. And it's, I apologize to all Koreans out there. Or I should say South Koreans, sorry. Young as Lee as Guam Ja-Lee as Lady Vengeance.
Yeah, I didn't really credit anyone else, but you pointed out someone later, the teacher. That ends up becoming the killer, but I guess that will come up.
Yeah. So I'd say both you and I just kind of have this very meh opinion about Old Boy, in hindsight. So what was it like going back to Lady Vengeance now that all the like rabid fanboyism has died down over these movies?
I don't want to blow my load all at once. I'll talk about my overall thoughts at the end, but I found the visuals very strong. So yeah, I still enjoyed it. I noticed you said the visuals kind of lacked in the film compared to what you remembered, and I did not really see that as much.
Yeah, I guess it should be noted that, both you and I, when we first started talking about doing this episode, we agreed that we liked Lady Vengeance out of the three because it had a stronger visual presence.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like the plot better. I like everything about it better, but...
Sorry. But yeah, that was the big thing that I remember, particularly like the scene taking place in the alleyway while it's snowing. And just upon revisiting it, I didn't like a lot of the visuals, and in general, I just found a lot of flaws in the movie.
Mm-hmm. No. But keep on going.
No, I was just gonna say, and I guess it's just because my taste has changed. Because I assume you saw this also when it originally came out. Probably 2006, 2007.
Yeah. So
it has been a few years, and it's just, I don't know if I'm just getting grumpier as the years go by, but yeah.
Well, this is probably my third viewing, so I probably saw it 2006 and probably saw it a couple years later and then watched it now, because I know I've seen it a couple times, but it's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah. For me, the beginning, I think that maybe that's why I just started nitpicking it more. It's like when, in the beginning, they are introducing you through the various inmates that'll eventually help this character, and their perception of her, and you see I forget what they refer to as a angel of sorts, and you see an inmate looking at her. She has a radial glow on her face, and that looked so dumb to me. It's just so dumb. I'm saying, and then the visual of her taking, this guy that's the cause of the problem that she's going to get revenge on. His head is on the body of a dog, and she takes it to a cliff edge and then shoots him. And just stuff like that.
I completely forgot about that scene until you mentioned it. That part was especially dumb.
Yeah, just because it to me, it just didn't mean anything.
No.
I think because I started focusing, it's wow, these visuals are actually really bad. Like I say, I think the movie just kind of just started on a bad foot with me, and I just started finding more things to pick at.
Yeah, I don't know. I still saw the second she came out of the prison with her, the way she was looking and the way she, you know, I can't remember. Did she just toss that cake down, or just her presence when she first appeared still kind of awed me and kind of warned me to her.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a priest. Yeah, I think it's a priest. You know, he falls in love with her after seeing a news report about her, and so he hands her a tofu cake because I don't know the symbolism there. Apparently, it's
like purity or good luck or something, I think.
Yeah, something to that extent. And I the visual didn't get me, but I thought it was actually funny because he's holding out the cake and she just lifts her hand up and tips it out of his, so it falls, and then just smash cuts right to his face, and he's just instantly crying.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that's one of the things that other surprised me that I didn't remember is there's actually a lot of humor into it. I mean, there's that black humor, of course, and then there's humor in general. What did you think about there being so much humor in the movie?
It did sometimes take me out of the movie, but I think some things that I appreciated, you didn't really appreciate. Like I did, like her interactions with the other inmates. And I really enjoyed her relationship with the young baker. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it was hit or miss for me, but mostly it was positive.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the humor was a negative because it wasn't. Like you said, the scene with the young baker, you know, she's explained to him, you know, what she did, and that the policeman who arrested her, I'm sorry, the detective that arrested her was there. I'm saying that was a really nicely done moment of kind of like deadpan humor.
Yeah, for sure. And then he buys the cakes anyways, and his wife mentions that she won't eat the cake made by the killer.
Yeah, so. And said we can't eat this cake. It was made It was made with the hands of a killer. She throws it on the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm saying. I mean, so it didn't really bother me. It's just something I noticed that I didn't remember about the movie. But to go back to what you had mentioned, you know, there is a great deal of humor regarding her interactions with the inmates. Mm-hmm. And again, not quite a negative thing, but it felt like it spent too much time on that. Because you get an introduction to each character, and you're told, you know, what this character did, how long they're in prison, so that way you can find out later on, you know, why they're helping this character get revenge. Mm-hmm. And this takes up a good portion of the movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, actually. I don't have a problem with how much of the film it took up. I think it showed how calculated and how well planned out everything was. Like, she attached herself to these certain people in order to obtain certain goals.
Yeah, I'm saying it's, you know, the one thing that I think really pisses me off about these movies, it's like I want to pick at them, but I can't necessarily say they're bad. Like that, it's not bad. It's really not. You know, if I were to say it was, I'd just be a lying asshole. But to me, it seemed like it could have been done quicker. And when she, you know, meets these people outside of the prison, there's not much done there. Like, you know, one of the ladies just they give her a gun. That's all you get. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's just like how much time is spent with that character introducing him. It seems just kind of like a waste. But
well, I don't think they really need to be developed outside of the prison. I think it's more just she developed these relationships, and once she's out, she knows she can get a place. She knows she can get a gun. She knows, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was a problem. I think it just, you know, kind of talks about how she built up friendships, how focused she was on getting her revenge. So I did not mind that at all. One scene that I want to point into that I will mention is really fucking bad, and it's the only scene that I would go out of my way to say that, is when she goes to America.
No, she goes to Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
Whatever. She goes see white people, right? But the scene and them drinking, and it's just so dumb and so out of place with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it is. I think actually it's funny that you said it. She goes and sees white people. I think that was really like the whole mentality behind it, because it's
Yeah.
just it is this goofy random moment. And
Yeah, and they don't understand each other's language, right? So how are they getting drunk and having a good time? And
hmm yeah, I can say she speaks like very just only a few English words. So like I said, it's like she can't even talk to her daughter. So why is this scene happening?
well, didn't she use the dictionary,
Oh,
like
fuck,
the English Korean dictionary, to translate her letter in the first place?
fuck, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that was a thing. She basically probably has no understanding outside of, pop culture words. So,
Yeah, probably. I'm saying it, and that scene in particular also introduces another problem that I had. For one, that scene is just so pointless, and it to me that's something that just throws the whole movie off, just because it's so unnecessary and so random.
mm-hmm.
But the subplot with the whole daughter to me doesn't make sense, because she's in the middle of unfolding this whole revenge scheme that's obviously very dangerous, and she wants to bring her daughter back into her life amidst this, and it's like that's just to me thinking about that would just cause a problem. That could be something that could be held against her, and it actually does come up later in the movie, for that reason.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think it's to develop that she's more sympathetic and to kind of justify her actions later in the film of taking a more passive role when it comes to the actual revenge, because she still has her kid and they're trying to establish that they were able to have some sort of relationship after all these years. So I can see how it makes supposed to make sense, but at the same time it's kind of a flawed plot device, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it works. It works for the narrative, but it doesn't work logically.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any other scenes? Since it's mostly me just bitching about the movie, are there any other scenes that kind of stood out something bad to you?
I didn't really like the birthday singing one. I found that a bit awkward.
What scene was that? Because I really don't remember it.
Near the end, after all the families got their revenge and they go back to the bakery.
Oh, okay, that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say one way or another because, as you can see, I don't even remember it.
Yeah, basically to celebrate murdering that guy, they all shared cake and sung happy birthday.
Yeah, again, it's trying to interject humor into it, and that's one point where it didn't really work.
Yeah. But really in the movie that's the one scene, and her going to Australia are the two scenes, and the dog. So 3 scenes that I really didn't like at all. But that's such a small portion of the film, so I don't want it to sound like I didn't like this film. But those 3 scenes in particular, I really didn't like.
So what you're really saying is that this is the worst movie ever to be made.
That's what I'm saying.
But kind of going back to that family, that was my favorite part of the movie, just because, it presents like something very interesting there, because to me, like Lady Vengeance and Old Boy, there's nothing really human about the stories. There's nothing really human about the characters. It's a good story, mind you. I'm not saying it's not. There's nothing personal in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying when this family comes in, then it suddenly develops a really human nature to it, and that's what I liked. And say because I really had a hard time connecting with the main character, Lady Vengeance, in this. So I don't have to try to pronounce her real name.
Yeah, she's pretty emotionless throughout the film.
Yeah, I'm saying I can't say it's a bad thing, but it's something that didn't work for me.
It's been forever since I've seen this film, but in the back of my mind, I was somewhat comparing it to Miss 45, which as far as like her general demeanor is. I don't know if you can go that far back in your memory banks or not.
I guess it's just a tough call because, like, I can understand the coldness of the character in Miss 45 better than I can in this. Yeah. Like, I can understand what you're saying. She's very calculating, and naturally she's not going to have a whole lot of empathy showing in what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, it just like I found more relation in the families.
Yeah, and I think the switch that was kind of made on purpose near the end. I think that the focus was switched to them, and it didn't necessarily become about her revenge at that point. I think it's probably one of the stronger moments in the film when the families are kind of together deciding how they want to deal with the issue.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a great morality scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the showing the parents the videos and, seeing their emotions and then them lining up to, kill him slowly. And I'm pretty sure anyone who's listening to this has seen this movie. This is pretty standard viewing, so.
Yeah, I'm say this was made in 2006, so I'm not concerned about spoiling this. Because if you haven't seen it, tough shit. Should have moved your ass a little faster.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many people who didn't jump on the Vengeance wave from Korea.
Yeah.
So I think that was pretty popular in these films where Old Boy was the biggest one, and I think everyone checked out Lady Vengeance. Yeah, and I don't know how many people checked in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. I'm probably fucking these all up. I always do.
No,
it's Lady Vengeance and Mr. Vengeance.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it was. I guess try to make it like more distinct because I think they might have been confused if they released Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and then released Sympathy for Lady Vengeance. I think I'm gonna assume somebody probably thought that would create confusion, not realizing the Old Boy is in between those two. So that's why you got Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and then Lady Vengeance was just Lady Vengeance.
Yeah.
That's my guess. That could be completely wrong. But on that note of families and spoiling the movie, what did you think of them using, I'm going to butcher this name, goddamn, Min Sink Cho as the killer in this?
I had no problem with it.
Really?
I know you thought it was fan service when we talked about this before.
Yeah, because I'm right and you're wrong.
Well, think about how many directors just have actors that they like and use them over and over again.
Oh no, I'm saying that's not the problem necessarily because I'm gonna have to scroll down to get the name, but the actor in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance shows up in Thirst. Something like that I don't mind, but to bring him back immediately from being the protagonist in Old Boy and then have him be the antagonist in Lady Vengeance, it just pulled me out of the movie because it's like you're doing this just because Old Boy was such a huge success and this is what fans want because they're fucking stupid.
I didn't even realize it until you pointed it out, to be honest, because his look in Old Boy is so drastically different. So with the long hair and the beard, I didn't even notice until you pointed it out.
Yeah, sure. Try to make me look like I'm wrong.
I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. I think directors just pick actors that they like working with. So.
Yeah, I'm saying, like I said, I don't mind that they recycle it because, I mean, Chan-wook Park does this throughout his filmography. It was just immediately using him in the movie after and then switching the roles to me it seemed cheap and unnecessary.
Yeah.
But I mean, those are really just the big talking points for me. I mean, do you have any other thoughts on it?
I still think it is I think it's the best of the Vengeance trilogy, hands down. Out of the three. Would you agree?
No.
So you actually think Old Boy is better, even though you're not a fan of Old Boy?
Of course. I mean, Old Boy is the best thing ever to happen ever. No, Old Boy is still my least favorite movie. Lady Vengeance is the second. Like I say, I did have a chance to watch Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and I like that one better because, to me, that's more restrained, and there's more humanity in the story. Lady Vengeance, to me, is Park just becoming completely self-indulgent and just kind of feeding his own ego with the shit that he did in Lady Vengeance.
I would disagree. I would still go as far as to say it's one of the better Korean revenge flicks. The only one I can think of that I would say is better is Pita, whichever that is, whichever pronunciation I'm going with. But it would probably be that, and then Lady Vengeance for as far as revenge flicks I've seen from Korea.
I'm gonna say I won't agree or disagree. It's just, that's your opinion. That's just fine.
Yeah. No, it's been a while since I've seen Mr. Vengeance, but I don't really want to revisit it because I remember really disliking it. But I pretty much watched all three of them at more or less the same time.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I can understand somebody not liking Mr. Vengeance because it is drastically different in comparison to something like Old Boy and Lady Vengeance. It's.
I remember it being boring, but yeah, I don't know. I shouldn't throw that around. I hate using that term, but I wasn't impressed with it at the time.
You weren't. Yeah, I'm saying you weren't invested in it.
Yeah,
that's a snobbish way of saying it was boring.
Well, saying it's boring though is just writing it off very fast. So I shouldn't. It's like a stupid way to write things off.
Yeah, but no, it's a very different movie. Like I said, I liked it better because there's more humanity into it. And like I say, Lady Vengeance is too polished for me. Maybe.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I like the polish on it.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm being dismissive of a lot of things, but it still has a really strong visual presence. And I'm saying as much shit as I'm going to rain down on these other movies, the one thing I can't deny is Park has a really good visual style to his movies. Yeah,
I'm a sucker for Women in Snow too. So.
Yeah, like those scenes of her walking down the alley or walking down the street, those are really well done scenes.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, so I guess we will jump forward. Now, I feel with this one, I kind of put negative on it because I wanted to appeal to you being completely negative. But I might reword some of my notes here because I really like this film a lot. So I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay. 2006, was it same year?
Probably.
Same year as Lady Vengeance. But I'm pretty sure it was released after it, according to IMDb, I think.
Yeah, I'm saying I could see maybe being made in the same year, but I can't actually see them being released at the same time.
Who makes this two movies in the same year nowadays? Mike?
Yeah. Yeah, that's just because it's just like a process for him, like a manufacturing process.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's seems like quite the task to make two movies in a year nowadays. But that's also looking at Hollywood. Hollywood's kind of ridiculous, and I guess that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a cyborg, but that's okay. A girl who thinks she is a combat cyborg checks into a mental hospital where she encounters other psychotics. Eventually, she falls for a man who thinks he can steal people's souls. So was this your first viewing of this?
It was.
And what were you expecting?
Honestly, I didn't have much expectations for it. This is a movie that I've been meaning to watch, but it just kind of came at a time where I couldn't commit to it. So I mean, I knew it was gonna be a fun movie. It wasn't gonna be anything like his Vengeance trilogy, but that was like my only expectations for it. Beyond that, I was just like, let's see what this is.
Yeah, so you did have a rough idea of what it actually was before you went into it. It wasn't a blind viewing.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a Korean romantic comedy, and the only romantic comedies I will watch are from Korea because I think they do an exceptional job. So I don't know if that's a genre you've ever dabbled in, or if I ever picked for a highly recommended romantic comedy from Korea, if there'd be any interest there.
Yeah, I'm saying I've seen some. I can't think of any at the top of my head. There's one I'm trying to think of. It was about a stuntman who loses a limb. I'm saying that he develops a relationship with a girl. I can't remember what she did, but I can say that was one that I thought was really well done. But yeah, I can say I'm not opposed to romance or romantic comedies or anything. As long as the movie sounds interesting, I'll watch it. I don't give a fuck what genre it is.
Yeah, it only seems to. I can only watch it from Korea, though. I don't know what it is that they do it exceptionally well. I always find myself generally amused. I can't watch any American rom-coms, and I've even tried Japanese, and there's something about it I can't get into.
I've seen some Japanese romance comedies as well, and those are more relatable to American comedies or romantic comedies. They're just kind of very dry, very bland, very safe. There's nothing really. It's a very predictable story, very cookie cutter type of thing. The Korean ones that I've seen, they seem to be more willing to take chances. Like they're not afraid to make a depressing romantic comedy movie.
Yeah, or they're very quirky and kind of fun in a way that romantic comedies from other countries can't really tackle the same way.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I think it's called April Snow. Okay. But I'm not sure if that would call it comedy because that's kind of more bleak than anything else. But to me, that kind of demonstrates like the difference. Yeah, I say that watch that be a Japanese movie.
Yeah, I think they kind of hold on to that. Like I said, there's no real rom-coms that beat it, but I don't think the revenge was necessarily unique to Korea. It was just kind of a boom, but I don't think necessarily that's their best genre. Or rather, that genre can be done by other countries as well, just as effectively.
I mean, I can understand what you mean. Say it seemed like the Korean dramas, especially like the TV dramas, that became a fad for a while.
Yeah, I think it's still pretty popular. On Netflix, they still pick some up. And Netflix is really shitty for Asian film, just international in general.
Yeah.
So
I'm saying I just thought that was kind of it just made me think of that, bringing up the different trends in Korean cinema.
Yeah.
So is this? Well, I can say that's probably jumping ahead.
Yeah. So I have seen this movie multiple times. It's probably my favorite film by him. I was sold the first time. I love it. I love that opening scene where she's hearing those voices telling her to, slit your wrist and insert wires and put cable up and stuff like that. I don't know. I really like the setup. I don't know what you thought of that opening scene with the credits running.
And just, I'm saying it didn't do anything in particular for me. It made me understand what kind of character this is. So, it worked in that regard, but it's like, okay. I'm saying it gives you an idea of like, just kind of how the absurdity levels of this movie.
Yeah. Nope. And we see her. She's kind of, what's this, doe-eyed? Is that the right term that I'm looking for?
I would say so. She has a very kind of naive innocence to her.
Yeah. So did you find that attractive? Was she meant to be attractive, do you think?
I think she was. She's supposed to be she's supposed to be just kind of a cute girl who's, you can't tell if she's really insane or if she's kind of just something not right. But, in terms of my personal tastes, I'm just indifferent about it. Like, I didn't find her particularly attractive, but she wasn't unattractive. She did the part right. I'm going to say she was well cast.
You might want to do something with her, but then you'd feel guilty afterwards. So that's kind of the way I see it, because there's definitely mental health issues there. So
yeah, I'm saying, but also, one of the problems might be whenever she was on screen, I was fixated on her eyebrows, trying to figure out why she didn't have any. And then it was also very weird because on the close-ups, you realize she did have them, but they were painted or bleached or something. And so it was just some stupid bullshit that I decided to obsess over for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not even sure why that was necessarily. I guess it's solely aesthetics because it has no other reason for existing.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe she fried them off when she did that, but I don't remember if she had eyebrows before the beginning.
I think they were gone at the beginning too. maybe just from how much she charges herself, or I don't know, just to give her the look of being different, possibly being a cyborg.
Maybe.
But yeah, that was kind of uncertain, but
yeah, I'm saying it's not. I'm not even like picking at the movie for it. It's just one of those things like, why'd you do that? Like I'm trying to understand from the production standpoint why you would do that.
Yep. So I love the asylum in general. I love how batshit crazy everyone was. It's such a horrible depiction of mental health. But like going through the halls, you have people walking backwards, rolling on their side. At one point, there's a guy in the background with pot on his head, just banging it with a spoon.
Oh.
So
I didn't even notice that.
There's just so like this is like I said, I've seen this multiple times, so I spend a lot of time kind of focusing on the background, and there's just like littered with people in the background just doing incredibly stupid shit.
Yeah, I'm saying if I were to give this movie one compliment, it would be the depth of the scenes. Every scene has something going on it, and I mean it's great for multiple viewings. But that initial viewing, it might not be a good thing because you're kind of distracted. Like I think it's when the patient is telling her about the guy who locked himself in a clock. No, I'm sorry. It's a guy who starts freaking out over a vending machine. And in the background, you see this guy just swinging this jacket, like hitting the ceiling with it. And he's just doing that motion over and over again. I completely stopped like watching what was going on or reading the subtitles and just watch that guy because it was making me laugh. Yeah,
well, it's really fucking fun. It provides a lot of humor. So
yeah, I'm saying it provides humor. I'm gonna say it gives you an understanding like how much detail is in this movie, and it also kind of helps build the world that this movie's taking place in.
Yeah, and the inmates that they do focus on, I find them all pretty charming. That girl who's obsessed thinking she's going to become a famous singer even though she didn't make the cut for whatever, some sort of college or university like 10 years previously. So she's always looking at herself in the mirror. The compulsive liar, the girl who thinks she can fly using socks. I found all the inmates, like the ones that they focused on a bit more, to be really amusing.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I think this is a movie where Park handled the characters the best because I mean he spends a lot of time with his characters in all of his movies, but this one, I mean he really invested a lot of time in this. So I mean you remember every character, you remember all their quirks, everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of makes me wish he did more comedies. If I remember correctly, I think Joint Security Area is supposed to be somewhat of a comedy. So I might check that out, but I think when he indulges just in comedy, he's pretty effective.
Yeah, his movies don't really operate in reality. So I mean, I think this movie worked well for him because he was just able to go as far as he wanted to without kind of, to someone like me, becoming lost to his own self-indulgence. It fit well with this kind of environment that he was making.
Yeah. Yep, so I really dug the music in it. I also enjoyed the music, like the general soundtrack, made everything very whimsical throughout. And I really loved the one musical number with the yodeling. I don't know how your opinion was on that, but it's because I'm such a huge musical nerd.
I mean, it worked fine for the movie. It wasn't I'm not a musical nerd, so it wasn't something bad for me, but it also didn't do anything. I didn't really notice it. It just was a scene.
Yeah, it does take you a bit out of it. Like, it doesn't really make sense that each one of them would see their delusions.
No, but I'm say you calling it whimsical, I think is really like the best way to describe this movie because it's almost a fairy tale to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying it's a very, I can't say that he was influenced by him, but it has a very Terry Gilliam style to it, and so it doesn't make sense really, but it works for the style of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how they could really do it otherwise. I especially like the scenes where she becomes full cyborg and guns everyone down, and the guy is very much seeing it as her actually gunning people down. And I love that one overhead shot where she's walking through, just killing a bunch of the nurses and doctors, and then aims for the people on the roof. So
yeah, and saying the love interest in this movie, he believes that he's gonna shrink down into nothing, and it was such a weird moment when he's up on the roof and he shrinks down and just starts running back and forth. Like I couldn't figure out what was supposed to be going on, but it was just an amusing sequence.
There's another scene too where he's talking to, I can't remember if it was a patient or a nurse. I think it was a nurse, but he sinks down, like he actually gets smaller as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you do have to have a suspension of disbelief in there, but it doesn't take it too far. Again, like you said, it's a very whimsical movie, so it works very well for the overall tone of the movie.
Yeah. Did it lag for you at all?
A little bit towards the end, just because I've come to see that, again, I guess I shouldn't say it. From my perspective, Park has this issue where he kind of runs out of story and characters, so they kind of like gets him stuck in this little rut of they're kind of just working on this one problem, or they're working on this one relationship, and so that's kind of what this movie divulged into. Was this really, there's so much going on in the beginning, and then it's just kind of this just this little focus on him helping her. I'm saying it doesn't really do anything beyond that.
I almost feel like he pads out movies to reach the accepted runtime of Korean films.
Yeah, I could understand it, because it's not quite filler, but it's stuff that could easily be edited out.
I think most of the films we covered pretty much hit the 2-hour mark.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
I'd say Thirst was definitely 2 hours, because that movie was just pissing me off the more it went along. But no, I'd say none of the movies felt overly long. They're very weird. They don't feel overly long, but when you watch them, you feel like there's things that can be cut out.
Yeah. No, I can't. I think it's which one? Thirst I watched in 2 parts, but because I had some other shit to do. But it seems like every time we talk about anyone, we complain about runtimes.
Well, the problem is nowadays everyone thinks that I'd say the big problem is fucking Hollywood movies. No one needs a fucking 3-hour Transformer movie. Nobody. No. But the problem is, it's a visual storytelling. Movies are a visual storytelling. So there's a point where it feels like they're hand-holding you to give you information, and there's just this focus that a movie has to be 90 minutes. It has to be 120 minutes. And I just don't understand why, I'm fine with the movie being 72 minutes. If it doesn't have the material, then don't drag it out. And I'm saying these are movies that can kind of feel like they're dragging out.
Yeah. Well, when you think of 80s and 70s genre film, there's not really much that has that sort of runtime. Mm-hmm. It just seemed like the standard of you're hitting 1 hour and 90 or an hour and a half, mm-hmm. Or less. But that's obviously changed. It's weird too. It's even the trend in music. A lot of bands releasing albums where they have a 10-minute track on it. So it's a weird trend that people seem to want everything longer.
Yeah, I'm saying I can't say that, it's a bad trend. It's all dependent on the movie. Mm-hmm. Completely blanking on his name. But yeah, I mean, there's some movies that can be just stupidly long, 4 or 6 hours. And they're not bad, but they're just some movies that they can't justify a great length. This is a movie that could have really been cut down and would have been fine. Because there's nothing that would have been sacrificed. None of the entertainment, none of the story, none of the characters.
Mm-hmm. Yep, so I really like when he installs the box in her back. I thought that was very, to keep in touch with my romantic side, I think that was very romantic and adorable. I'll admit that I'm not that I can be sensitive. But I really thought that scene was nice and romantic.
No, it's a very sweet scene. I'm saying it gets you, because so much of the movie is ludicrous before that. It works well because it gets you to understand that everything around that everything that's happening in this movie is kind of absurd, but there is this real relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying it's the only thing that would have made it work.
But this is considered somewhat of an oddball romantic comedy, I would say. Like, there's a few out here, but it out there, but it doesn't, like, it has the feel, but I don't know if it follows generally the same formula. Because it doesn't really necessarily end with them being romantically involved.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. I guess I'm gonna say. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. Yeah, I'm gonna say because romantic comedies are one of those subgenres where people are very used to a formula, and this movie doesn't follow that formula, but it is a romantic comedy. Because if you try to consider anything else, it just it doesn't work. And then, and at its core, it is about these two unlikely characters coming together, and they don't necessarily fall in love in the strictest of terms, but their relationship helps them to exist. It kind of keeps them from getting lost to their own psychosis. And so it is like I'm gonna say, you said it best. It is a romance movie, but it's not a typical romance movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it, that it's more an issue of them dealing with their own psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
So I went over the negative points because in retrospect I really like this movie and I thought you would hate it. So
no, I would say it was a fine movie. I think this Park style, I think this was more suited for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has this tendency to be very big and very showy in his movies, even though they're not like big stories. So I think this worked best for what he wants to do in his movies.
Yeah. Nope. Anything else to add?
No.
Okay, so let's see. I made the notes on Thirst. No, I made the notes on Stoker. So you're still up.
Yeah. Okay. Thirst, 2009. Through a failed medical experiment, a priest is stricken with vampirism and is forced to abandon his ascetic ways.
Yeah.
I suddenly can't read. I'm saying it's, we mentioned him before. It's got Kang Ho Song as the priest. I think his character's name is Sang Hun.
Yeah.
And then it has Ok Bin Kim as Taiju.
It's pronounced OK Bin.
Okay.
I don't think it is. I just like saying it as OK Bin.
That's what it looks like. But I'm an ugly American, so I just pronounce things an American way, which is usually stupid and wrong.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to say I've heard a lot about this one, so...
This was your first viewing of this one?
Yeah, I'm going to say this again. This is another movie that I just hadn't seen. So I was interested in having this be a part of the movie. So I take it you've seen it before, at least.
Yeah.
Second, third, fourth, 20th time?
Second. No, I've never watched a movie, probably. I may have watched one or two more than 10 times, but generally not.
But yeah, I'd say I was really interested in going into this one, and this one has cost me a lot of emotional conflict, and it's making me hate Park for it. Because, I mean, it's probably my own fault, because you should never do this with a movie, because it's just going to create a problem. Because I really wanted to see it. I had high hopes for it, high expectations that I was going to really enjoy it, and there's a lot of things in this movie that drive me crazy.
I don't know. I think it is probably one of his least flawed movies. But I don't think that necessarily means it's the best.
But it still means you're a crazy person for thinking that. No. I mean, we'll get into the flaws just because I bitch about everything. So we'll eventually get there. But to start off, how do you think they handled the vampireism of the aspect of the movie?
Very good. No tropes, like no master vampire turning him or starting it off with him being this aged old vampire. So it was a nice way to introduce it. It was, I would say, an original concept.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I think it's fair. I'm saying 'cause he has a lot of classic traits, but it's the concept of how he becomes a vampire is fairly original. I'm saying I think it kind of taps into a real horror of when you get a blood transfusion, you don't really know what you're going to be getting, and then of course in the 80s they had that huge scare where everyone thought they were going to get AIDS just from something like a blood transfusion. So I think that part actually did tap into a real horror, and it worked really well. So I don't know if we should explain it more. He goes to I don't know what they ever say. He goes to his village where there's an outbreak and a disease. There's a name for it, but I can't think of it.
It's basically he's volunteering to be infected with it, right?
Yes, and they're going to test drugs on him, and part of that is a blood transfusion, and he eventually dies. But it's this blood is tainted with vampire blood, or it's vampire blood, whatever. And so he resurrects, and he becomes kind of like this. People envision him as a miracle healer because he healed himself.
Yeah. I like how the virus was racist.
How is it racist? I must have missed that point completely.
It doesn't target certain ethnicities.
Huh.
I think it didn't target black people. But this is a vague memory, but I know it's a thing. When there was, back in the day when there was a lot of junk science, this guy went on trial for trying to create a virus that would only kill black people. So,
Jesus Christ.
So this is the reverse.
Yeah, and now you said it, now I remember. That's because when he first goes to the mission where all the people are housed, they said the only people who are stricken with it are single men. Single men, so. White and Korean, or white and Asian, something like that. That's
yeah. So I don't think diseases do that.
No, I don't. I can't imagine diseases really give a fuck.
No, I know, like in the good old days when America first settled in, well, what's now the USA, that when you bring like new diseases in, they can fuck with the culture. But at this point, I don't really think that's still a thing. So,
no,
but I might be wrong.
No, I understand what you're saying. You think of something like smallpox.
Yeah,
I'm say Europeans kind of developed immunity to it, and then they brought it and about wiped out the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'll have to do some Wikipedia research after this, because I wish I thought of this before, if it's an actual thing. I just kind of found the idea of a disease not targeting certain ethnicities or type of people kind of odd.
Yeah. So I mean, there's kind of, it doesn't become very prominent, after the beginning, but there's a heavy medical kind of science influence in the movie in the beginning regarding the kind of vampire aspect, and there's also a heavy focus on religion. Mm-hmm. Did you like that inclusion into it?
Like religion or science?
More so the religion, since the science doesn't really become it's just kind of takes a back step after he becomes a vampire.
I think, isn't religion the whole key to the film? Could they have done this film with any other character? Well, I guess technically they could, but I think it's most effective with the... What was even his title? He was with the Catholic Church, I'm assuming.
I couldn't tell you. I'm going to say it. I think he was just a father or a priest, whatever that's called. I'm say, but I don't know religion well enough to know the difference between them. So,
because he was also in, I don't know. I'm just going to drop that. I'm not going to speculate.
Yeah, I'm say he ran his own parish. Say so. I mean, he does have some power to him.
And he doesn't have sex, so that's why I'm assuming it was Catholicism. But
yeah, but yeah, I'm say I like that was included with it. I'm say because most movies where somebody becomes a vampire, it is a conflict. Oh, I don't want to kill people. I don't want to feed on people. But this was more of a that stem more from a spiritual conflict rather than like a personal morality level of not wanting to kill people. It's there's a very heavy. He doesn't want his spirit corrupted.
Yeah, there's no any point where he thinks he's cool because of it.
Yeah.
Although I kind of take that back, he kind of impresses the girl later on, but generally he doesn't see. He sees it more as a curse than a good thing,
Yes.
even though he's given all these abilities.
Yes, and I thought that was kind of an interesting aspect because even though he does have vampire blood, he still has that disease in him, and when he doesn't feed on blood, it comes out and resurfaces and boils and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it provided more depth to the character instead of just I need to kill people, but I don't want to. There was more to him than that.
Yeah,
and for that reason, I'm really glad that that Park brought back Kang Ho Sung for the lead because he just has one of those stoic faces.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone was well cast in this film.
Yes,
even the bit players. The husband of the lead girl there was very disgusting, but like not in an extreme way, just always having the constant nose running and his weird relationship with his mother. Like it wasn't too over the top, but it was, he wasn't too gross or too crazy, but there was just a slight touch there. And even the people who came to play Mahjong? Anyways, just the whole group, I enjoyed every character in this.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, and coincidentally, I'm gonna say I think the guy who plays as the husband played as the guy who accidentally kills the child of Kang Ho Sung in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say, and then of course I'm pretty sure. Because I'm being racist here, and all Asians look alike to me, so I could be very wrong. But I'm gonna say I'm pretty sure Kang Ho Sung also was in Lady Vengeance as one of the thugs that tries to abduct her off the street.
Okay.
So I mean, again, going back to that, he reuses actors. So I mean, there is kind of that. It's more well used here because it's not as distracting to me because I'm just finding things to pick at. But again, it's just kind of one of those fun things. So like you're saying, there's like this established group of actors that Park goes to, and in this case, he uses them really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really surprised how much I enjoyed OK Ben in this movie.
Yeah, she was very good. I think she was the highlight. She kind of stole the show for me. Just her weird mental state and kind of her shifting through emotions was very interesting.
Yeah, she does a good job of going from this portraying a character that has two personalities. She kind of presents herself as this kind of mistreated woman who was forced into marriage into this family for the priest's sake because she's trying to seduce him through very unusual methods to someone who embraces being able to kill people.
Yeah, she's very manipulative, but it's all very well thought out.
Yes, I'm saying she's to me, she's one of those actresses that you really understand the importance of, like, just even giving your character little ticks. Like when he confronts her on top of a car after she killed a random stranger, just watching her performance of her, like, just celebrating in her evilness is just amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing that I found kind of weird, I'm say, it was funny. I'm say when you think of kind of thinking of the performers, the guy who plays his the husband's name is Kang Woo, I think, or I can't remember if that's the actor's name or the character's name, but he comes back into the movie. God, I'm sorry, I'm gonna take a couple steps back.
That's okay.
I'm getting all confused here. But there's an interesting part in the movie where I'm gonna say, amidst of OK Ben, it sounds so weird saying that. When she basically convinces the priest to murder her husband, so that she can finally be free and they can be together. Because at this point, he still believes that she's just this woman is being held captive.
Yeah.
And of course, he eventually does, and they start being, I guess.
So, do vampires have super lungs?
I guess. It's one of those.
I was thinking that when I watched that scene.
Yeah, I'm saying it's he. I guess if you haven't seen this, we're gonna spoil this really badly. He drowns her husband at the lake, and there's actually a town at the bottom of the lake, just to give you an idea of how deep it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of those kind of tricky areas when you get into vampire lore. It's like they're dead, so I guess they wouldn't need oxygen, but I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyways, after they kill the husband and they kind of try to go back to their normal lives, they start seeing him everywhere. And when this was first happening, this confused me a great deal. Like, I thought he was actually there. What did you think of these scenes?
I liked it quite a bit. At first, like, when I watched it the first time, I thought it was kind of a bit dumb and confusing. But I kind of have a question for you that I thought about when watching this film, because both of them see the guy differently.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of builds it up a bit. Like, the priest very much, when he sees him, it's more an issue of guilt when he kind of imagines this guy. Whereas the girl, it was more a sense of fear. And I think it was kind of her trying to deal with the concept of life, death, and pain, and just kind of worried that if this, the priest can be immortal, is it possible for this person to live on? So I do you think they saw it differently, or am I just reading too much into it?
No, I think that's a tough call, honestly. I didn't see that much depth to it, but I could have been wrong. I'm usually wrong, so that wouldn't be a surprise. But no, because they do experience it in different ways. Because he mentions that the way he killed him, because when he dragged him to the bottom of the lake, he kept floating up. So he took him into a house at the bottom of the lake and put him in a cabinet and put a rock on the cabinet. So the priest, his coffin is actually a cabinet. So when he experiences it, he kind of becomes trapped in the cabinet, even though there's nothing there, because he thinks that there's a rock on it.
Yeah.
And, she gets more of like...
well, there's that scene where he's taking the pliers, is it? Or the knife, and kind of... Because she did this at one point when he was sleeping, just taking a pair of pliers and, putting it towards his mouth and withdrawing it. Yeah,
they're scissors or pliers, something like that. I'm going to say it's one of those tools that you're not quite sure what it is, but yeah. I'm going to say because... That's kind of gives you the hint of what she's really like, is that she pretends she's killing him at night, and so now that he's dead, she sees him doing that to her.
Yeah, I imagine that'd be really fucking hard to act out. I would be terrified to do that.
Yeah, I would say that they probably use some computer trickery because he does it really fast. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'm saying,
well, you practice enough. It's like doing that scissors or pen in between your hand.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but yeah,
same thing.
But yeah, I think they were probably trying to come across what you're saying, that they're experiencing this haunting in different ways because it's affecting them different, emotionally different.
Mm-hmm.
But what that is, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't get much out of the scene.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, I wanted to touch on it because you said it was stupid. I could understand that because there's a scene where she's having a conversation with the priest while they're having sex, and it pulls out, and you see this guy in between them. So the priest is essentially having sex with her dead husband, and he's just got this ridiculous grin on his face.
Yeah, that's the only scene that I didn't really care for when he popped up. I do like the one where he was sleeping in, but like not when they were having sex, but just when they were sleeping in the bed.
Yeah, and he was still there.
Yeah. But the sex one was kind of weird because, like I said, I like the idea of them having different delusions about it. I guess you can say they were both guilt-ridden at that point, but I did like how previously it had separated it, so when it came together like that, I didn't really care for it, and it was icky.
Well, just imagine how the actor feels, because he was basically getting humped. The actor was naked while he had the character is supposed to be the dead husband. He had clothes on, but I mean, at the end of the day, he was still getting hung. So I'm sure that was an awkward moment for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's like, shoot it. We have to go again. Again. Again.
But yeah, I'd say it's one of the more interesting movies, but it's also one of the more kind of polarizing moments because it's like it didn't need to be there, but it worked for what it was doing. And it's also strange because it presents itself as this problem for these characters, and then it just goes away.
Yeah. Well, it goes away once she becomes a vampire. So I think it's kind of when their relationship changes. He doesn't focus as much on the guilt, and now that she's become this immortal thing, she's not as fearful of death. So to me, it kind of makes sense that it craps out after she becomes a vampire.
And that's a fair interpretation. I will go with that because I mean that to me that's not an unreasonable way to look at it. Because I mean at this point I was just really getting irritated with the movie because my big problem with the movie is that there's just so little done. I'm saying because you have there's a lot of interesting dynamic in the characters in the beginning, and then once the priest and the woman start becoming intimate with each other, the movie basically gets in a rut because it reaches a point where it's established that she's not what she seems and that there is something mentally wrong with her. She's more dangerous than the perceived innocence that she tries to present to the priest, and he's already dealing with this moral conflict of being a vampire, and so it's almost the same kind of conflict because he wants to be with her, but he wants to stay true to his vows as a priest. And then once he actually gives himself up, has sex with her, murders for her, and basically develops this whole relationship where he hates her even though he loves her, and he wants to be with her, but he understands who she is, and then eventually hates her and has contempt for her.
Yeah.
And it's this story that just kind of circles back on itself, and it's like, okay, he's conflicted about his state of being. He's conflicted about this relationship with her, and they fight and they argue, but then it goes back to he cares for her and she possibly cares for him, and it just keeps doing this all the way up until it reaches the end of the movie, and there's no progression, and that kind of drove me crazy.
Yeah, I would say more that's the middle half of the film. I think it really picks up near the end, but pretty much once they make the White Room on, I really enjoyed it. That's when it kind of picked up the pace a bit. But I can understand how you kind of see the whole thing as cyclical.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm saying, I will agree. I'm making it sound like that's the whole thing the movie is. But she doesn't turn into a vampire until like the hour mark of the movie, and the movie's only 2 hours long. So it's not that much time spent on it, but it was, to me, there was just too much time stuck in this, just this point in the story and the characters that doesn't do anything. And it just kind of goes back to the point I was trying to make with I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay. Is that he kind of like just runs out of story and characters, and he just kind of just stays into this one spot until it reaches a certain point and where it needs to finally move forward. Like, these characters are stuck in this dynamic, and then you get to the end.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
Yeah. I'm saying I can understand this is an issue I would understand if people didn't see it the way I do, because I think it's a very strange thing to nitpick, but
yeah.
But moving on to positive aspects, like I said, I actually did want to like this movie. I was insanely impressed with the wire work in this movie. Like, everything actually has natural movement, and it doesn't feel like wire work. And I'm saying, like, not even like there are scenes where they're jumping from roof to roof, or just kind of making grand leaps. They're not flying; they're more jumping. Or in scenes where like he's displaying strength. Like he picks the woman up by her neck, and it has like a very fluid movement. And I was like really blown away by how good it looked.
Yeah, I like that one camera shot too, where it showed him jumping from roof to roof, but it had like the camera facing down. Do you remember that one shot when he first takes her jumping? It doesn't show him, but it shows like the point of view from him jumping to building, which was a really nice shot.
Yeah, because I think they call it like a snorri cam kind of thing, where the camera and the character stay stationary, and it's the background environment that's moving.
Okay.
Because I think that's what it's called, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's I'm saying, like I said, it's the characters. The characters remain in frame, and it's everything else that's moving. And that was a nicely done shot. It looked very real.
Yeah. And probably my favorite effect was when she punched the guy's fucking head off, pretty much. Just punch and neck break and head goes flying back. Yeah.
I'd say just a lot of those sequences are done really good. Like, you know, she jumps on him and is strangling him. It just has a really, really nice look. Because I can't think of a better way to put it. I don't know. I'd say those are really kind of the pros and cons for me on this movie. Like I said, there's a lot of good little things I liked about it, but like I just thought the movie got kind of to a rut.
I thought the ending was very strong, like when he takes her out with the car.
Yeah, I'm saying it was a very satisfying ending. I'm saying they did it very well. They blended, you know, a little bit of humor in there, some drama in there, and they also showed that these characters actually did care for each other.
Yeah. No, I even like the small touch of like the sea turning into blood with whales, and like it was somewhat cheesy CGI, but I still found it somewhat suiting.
Yeah, I'd say it's one of those things like you kind of notice it, but you don't really react to it.
Yeah. Yep, and her just trying to escape in the various ways, and
yeah, I'd say it's just a very satisfying ending.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any other anything else you want to say about the movie?
Nah. Oh, I think I might know the answer to this, but I'm curious how you interpret it. When he went back to that colony and raped that one girl.
God damn. I'm gonna say now I'm starting to wonder if I actually ever watched the movie.
That group that kind of idolized him.
Yeah.
Before he takes the girl to the beach, he makes a stop there, and he goes in and rapes one of the girls in the tent.
Wow. I cannot believe I am drawing an absolute blank on that scene.
Okay.
So I'll let you talk about it, since apparently I've gone full stupid here.
Anyways, I'm not 100%. I thought it was really kind of weird and unnecessary, but I think he wanted them to lose their faith in him. So he went back and did like this horrible deed to one of them.
I could understand that, because up to the point no one knows what's wrong with him. Nobody suspects him of doing any wrongdoings, and he's basically viewed as a
saint.
Yeah, I was gonna say a martyr, but that's not true. But yeah, I think that's a fair interpretation.
Mm-hmm. Nope, that's all I have.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's all I have. It's the worst movie to ever exist. I thought it was Lady Vengeance, but no, it turns out it was Thirst all
along. Okay, so we'll move on to Stoker.
Okay.
After India's father dies, her Uncle Charlie, who she never knew existed, comes to live with her and her unstable mother. She comes to suspect this mysterious, charming man has an ulterior motives and becomes increasingly infatuated with him. This one is easier because it's India is the main, Evelyn is the mom, and Charles is the uncle. So no having to pronounce names. So this isn't an Asian film. So why did you pick this film, Preston?
Basically, I hadn't seen it. I'm saying this seemed to be very well received. Since his Vengeance trilogy. I'm saying because both I'm a Cyborg and Thirst did very well, but Stoker, I guess maybe because it was a kind of an international film, it got a little more notice. I'm saying at the time when it first came out, I just stopped caring about what Chan-wook Park was doing. So I saw that it was directed by him, and it had Nicole Kidman in it, and I basically said, "Fuck it, I don't give a shit about either one of them." So I'm certainly not going to watch a movie about it. So it was finally time to come to
Nicole Kidman has a very bit part, and she's very good in this film, though.
No, yeah, I'm saying it was so. Since we were just going to do this, I figured it was time. It was time for me to come to terms with this movie and give it a shot.
Well, I think, too, it's always interesting to see how Asian directors handle American films. There's no way we would cover one by itself, but to throw it in here with 4 other films, I think it's not a problem.
Yeah, I'm saying I think this is actually a British production. I think the writer was British. I could be wrong.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I mean, it does take place in Britain. That much I know, but whether who produced it or not, I don't know.
Yeah. So this was the film that I was least interested in revisiting.
Why? Because you hate British people? You're racist?
Yes, I hate other white people. I don't know. I didn't really think it warranted a second viewing given the content. And I don't think I would give this another viewing anytime, ever again.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like, I didn't mind the movie. I'm saying to kind of jump ahead, but there's not a great deal of substance. Substance there. There's just not really. There's nothing there for me to attach to. This will probably be the one and only time I see this movie.
It's like a coming of age / drama film, basically.
Yes.
And it's definitely different than a lot of his other films, I would say.
Yeah, and say looking back like at Old Boy, Lady Vengeance, I'm a Cyborg, and a little bit of Thirst. This is a very scaled down movie to what he was doing. It's not as wild. It's not as like an skewed reality. It's a very personal story about characters, and there's not a lot of. It's not very eccentric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think as much as you have been picky on his other films, I think there's a lot more reason to revisit them than this one. So, did he not write this one?
No, I don't believe. I'm gonna say he co-wrote all the other ones we've talked about, and I think he's at least co-written everything he's directed except this one. This one was written by an author, I believe.
Okay. Did he do the screenplay, though, then, or it was...
No, I believe it was all the same writer.
Okay. That kind of explains things, too. It's kind of weird that they would hire someone for that. I guess they did the same thing with Snowpiercer, didn't they? The director didn't write... I know it was based on a comic book, but I don't think he wrote the screenplay for it.
Yeah. No, I'm saying I think that's actually a really good comparison, because it seems to be the same circumstances.
Mm-hmm. I guess, I don't know, I do like that trend, and I think Korean filmmakers have a good sense of visual flair, so I can appreciate them coming over, and I don't think too much is lost in translation. Though with this film, I kind of felt that there was few moments where everything was over dramatic and somewhat just kind of the delivery. Everything just kind of seemed a bit off for me. It's hard for me to kind of pin down certain moments.
Yeah, I'm saying I get what you're saying, and I don't think I could really phrase it any better or like to describe it better. But like to me, Park's style is like very theatrical, in regards to like the theater as in plays. Everything is very big. Even the characters are big. The scope of the story is big, even though it's actually a very small story. Like I'm say, like Lady Vengeance is just about this woman getting revenge on somebody who blackmailed her into taking a crime, but the movie feels enormous. Same with Thirst. It's about the relationship of two characters, yet it's this huge world. And so yeah, there is a very, very his movies are very big, And in this case, I think he definitely brought out more of that theatrical with the performance. Because I personally could see this existing as a stage play.
Yeah.
So I think I can understand that issue because again, it's like they don't perform in a natural manner.
Yeah. No, everything seems slightly off.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they don't like it. The characters don't really necessarily interact like movies tend to be. I'm saying again, this like almost everything they say is very dramatic and very. I'm saying there's
dramatic,
really
but also somewhat awkward at times.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not naturalistic, even though his movies never really are. But this one's in particular is done in a very different style.
I almost feel like there's a possible translation error in some way, where a director could say, I want you to be more like so-and-so, and then who's ever doing the interpretation says roughly the same thing, but because of the language barrier, it gets a bit different, and then he doesn't. We talk about the language barrier with us having a hard time gauging of the performances when it comes to Asian films, so maybe that also works the same way with directors. I thought Snowpiercer was good, but it was more of an action movie. And I thought Miike's venture into American film was very bad. And even Tsukamoto with Bullet Man, I know wasn't well received. I still really enjoyed it a lot, but I think you can always kind of tell there's some sort of translation issues there.
Yeah, I'm saying the Tsukamoto one's tough because like that to me that's like
it was half and half, wasn't it? Like half Japanese and half, because he starred in it too, right?
Yeah, I'm saying it takes place in Japan, but the character is American.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that one's also tough because he was still making his own movie, but he wanted to make a movie that was for Western audiences, whereas like Snowpiercer that's a Western movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that one's particularly very like kind of tough to decipher if that's a translation issue or if it's or what it is.
Well, Snowpiercer I think was okay, but it was more an issue of just I want this scene. I want you to walk up and hit this guy with an axe, and just the type of film that it was. I think it would have been. I'll sound like an asshole saying this, but easier to direct for a foreign director because of what type of film it was.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm probably gonna piss everyone off, but I'm gonna say to me, Snowpiercer was just a dumb action movie. It really was. I'm gonna say there was a visual style to it, but there wasn't a great deal of intellect to it.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought it was super fun and a good amount of absurd and effects and fighting scenes, but it was. I think it's more just an issue that both of us aren't a huge fan of action films.
Yeah, because I'm actually not trying to insult Snowpiercer. It's just that's what the movie is. It tries to be intellectual about life and the end of the world and all that stuff, but it's at the end of the day, it's just an action movie.
Yeah, and I think the idea of classist.
Yeah.
I think is in a lot of films nowadays, so I don't think it really stands out because of that.
Yeah, I'm saying that there's really nothing new delved into the world of social science fiction.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'm saying in this case, it's a really tough call because again, the whole movie is done in a very different style. So it's is that a translation issue or was that a creative decision that maybe didn't necessarily work the way it needed to?
Yeah,
I'm saying it's a tough call. I think it bothered you more than it did me because I didn't take any issue with it personally.
Mm-hmm. No, I think maybe because it's the second viewing. Second viewing, you always tend to focus on other things. Yeah. And I just felt like everything was somewhat unnatural, like movements in the way they spoke. Like not to a great extent where it was comical or too obvious, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Again, I can say I'm really going to attest to the fact that I think this was done in more of a theatrical style than a movie style. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that might be where the awkwardness comes in. But then again, that same style was used in a movie like Birdman, where I thought it actually worked really well.
Yeah.
But then again, that movie is about stage plays. So
yeah. So this is when it's going to get confusing. And looking at the notes here, I say how much I hate this movie, and you kind of tend to justify it. So we'll see how this goes. I didn't really understand India's mental state at all. I had a hard time connecting her with anything. She seemed to be both kind of floating in between, I probably have the wrong here, psychopathic or antisocial, and then mild-mannered. And it all seemed to have to do with her father, but beyond that, we're not really given much depth how she has this mental disorder. I guess her mom's kind of distant as well. But I don't know. To me, it almost seems like it would be something just in the family, because we obviously find out the uncle has lots of problems. But for me, it was just kind of hard to... I had a hard time buying why she had the issues that she had mentally.
Yeah, and I guess I can understand why, because there's actually not really given a justification for it. She just is the way she is. I'm saying there's no backstory to this, so there's no real reasoning given to it. But the whole movie's emotional and kind of drama element is based off all on psychology, and there's you kind of get in. You learn that there is a psychological issue. There's a relationship to the psychology and the emotional imbalance of these characters, and it all relates back to India's father and her uncle. You said there's kind of something off about her mother, Nicole Kidman, in it, and to me, you can understand it a bit better by the line that's delivered in the movie when when India's talking to Nicole Kidman, because she has more of a relationship with her father, whereas she and her mother don't have a relationship, and so she says, her father told India, you have to do something bad in order to keep from doing something worse. Yeah. So it's hard to tell if because he said that to her and he constantly took her out on hunting trips and allowed her to kill these animals. It's hard to know if he saw that there was this potential that there could be this psychological issue with his daughter, and so he was trying to focus her energy not her energy, but like her mentality on something, and allowed her to kind of balance herself out. She develops this antisocial behavior. It's not so much antisocial. She generally lacks. She's not an empathetic person. I'm saying you can relate that to being spacing on my words. But anyways, you can relate that to psychotic disorders, and so I think they don't necessarily explain it, but you can see it, that there is something there, there's something wrong, and that her relationship with her father tried to get her to focus and try to kind of be as normal as she possibly could. And then when the uncle comes in, that starts to chip away at this facade that she built, that she is this normal girl, she's just a quiet girl. And like everything that she does, her tics, that fact that she doesn't like being touched, that she doesn't have a relationship with anybody other than her father, and even then she didn't really have a relationship with her father. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a movie where you really have to kind of step back and look at it. I'm saying because it kind of I think I'm not making my point very clear.
No, I'm following.
I'm saying it's a movie where it doesn't make itself clear, but if you take a step back and look at it, you can kind of see that it laid out the footwork, but it's easy to miss. Yeah,
so you're calling me dumb, basically.
Oh, I consider everyone dumb, so I'm saying it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. I was surprised I had so much problems buying into the psychology of it all, because generally in films I seem to think I'm somewhat perceptive to that. So maybe it was just a bit over my head, especially like the first time she masturbated to the image of the boy being killed.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hard time kind of associating that with any sort of just mental disorder. And like, I couldn't really find much on sex and violence necessarily, which is an odd thing to put into your Google search. But I was trying to find some psychology reviews on it, or anything kind of explaining how when someone is starts associating sex with violence, it's generally only in the case of someone who was sexually abused, and kind of starts turning that around.
Yeah, and it's a tough one, because I think part of the problem is I don't know how to say this without insulting, without sounding insulting. I'm not trying to be, but it almost sounds like you're trying to you're trying to look at it from a logical perspective, when it's more of a narrative. It's not trying to depict this as something real, because that masturbation scene, while I can kind of see it as kind of something in there to kind of like more to provoke the audience rather than something that's actually necessary to the story. Yeah. But in general, like, again, in the beginning, you learn she doesn't like to be touched. She doesn't have a relationship with anybody. She's a very cold person, and you have to kind of look at that, what led up to that moment, and see that she's someone who is prone to violence. She has no problem with killing. It's something that she's done for a long time. She uses it for alternative means. And then this uncle kind of produced such a shift in her mental and emotional state that she finally starts to develop feelings of lust. So it's when this boy is murdered in front of her, it acts as more of like a sexual awakening. And it's not so much that he was killed that turns her on. It's just that she's now such an emotional heightened state that she's finally developed these sexual feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And say, so I mean, yeah, I'm saying it's a tough thing to look at logically and say, she really wouldn't do that. And then you can also look at it, it's like, yeah, it's not, it seems kind of out of place. It feels like it's more there to provoke, but narratively, I think it works in the grand scheme of her character development, because she's this, like you said, it's a coming of age story, and that's like her sexual awakening. She's finally has feelings other than this just emptiness.
Yep, you're definitely convincing me that this film's better than I thought.
Well, I'm saying it feels weird because I am defending this movie, but I can generally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I don't think I should have approached it as logical as I tried to on the second viewing.
Yeah, I'm saying, but it is a tough one, because I mean, in general, most movies when they are psychologically centered like this, they try to approach it in a more realistic and logical manner, and this one is treating it more as like a dramatic plot.
Yeah. Nope. You mentioned that you don't like Nicole Kidman, but I thought she gave probably the best speech in the entire film. And she was very emotional and very good. Where was this quote that I had? Motherfucker. Okay, yeah, when she says, personally speaking, I can't wait for life to tear you apart. She's all like teary-eyed and confronting India. I thought that was a very strong scene.
It is. I'm saying it shows the emotional dynamic of these characters, and it also plays a part in the ending, because it shows that these characters are very distant. I'm saying they don't act like mother and daughter, and Nicole Kidman has almost contempt for her daughter because she stole her husband's attention away from her. Mm-hmm. They became a couple while she was left alone. So there's a great deal of emotional distress there, and her saying that, I think, it was like really it's so cold and mean spirited to say that to your child that it tore her apart to say that, but she doesn't like her child.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I honestly thought she, as brief as she was in it, I thought her role felt the most sincere and was the best acted for as much of being like a third character.
Yeah, she has I was going to say a stilted performance, but that's not the word I'm looking for. But yes, kind of going back to what you're saying, they don't have this is not a naturalistic movie. Because even she kind of acts the same way as the other characters in the movie do. It's, again, kind of very, very cold, very dramatic, a little bit stiff, but she's the one that actually has emotions in this. She's the one who she puts on a face of being cold and unfeeling, but is the one that actually has some humanity to her.
Yeah, for sure. So at the end, why did she kill the cop?
That's a tough one. That's one of those moments it's hard to say. It's like, did she kill him just because the daughter finally come to terms with the fact that she's, psychotic and doesn't mind killing people? Or at the same time, is it, because of there's a great deal of dead bodies at the end of the movie. So, did she do it to keep her mother from being accused of the crimes? It was kind of tough to say for me. It was one of those moments that you could kind of find justification if you look hard enough, but at the same time, it also felt random.
Yeah, maybe she was upset that he didn't pick up on what was going on with her uncle when her uncle was kind of building up excuses for her not being with that boy, and kind of finding out afterwards that, the scenario played out as it did, and maybe not liking the cop, but
mm-hmm.
I think it was unnecessary and didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. No, it was just, I think that's a lot of truth to that. I think it was just, they just wanted to kind of give the ending a little more punch, so you get to see her kill one more person. And, of course, the big money shot of watching the blood spray all over these white flowers.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. The song at the end was shit, too.
Stop being so out of touch with you. God damn. You old fuck.
I don't even remember how it goes, but I just remember watching it and being like, that is totally out of tune with the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like back in the 80s when you watched a horror movie and it ended like with a rap song or something in the credits.
Mm-hmm. I'm saying that.
It had that kind of feeling to it.
Yeah, I'm saying then the horror movies in 2000 had all the nu metal songs. Yeah, because this has a very it has a classical score to it, and then it ends with this kind of electronic pop
emo poppy song.
Yeah.
So I just thought it set an odd tone at the end, but
it was a really inappropriate way to end the movie. But
it's the credits, so I can't complain too much, right?
No, because I think I'm saying even as just credits, when you end something like that, it's so out of place. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Stop it. Just stop it, you goddamn movie. You want to smack it on the nose and say no.
One thing I also, because it's so much different than his other movies, like in one of his quotes that I mentioned, he kind of talked about how he's going to be established with exploitation for quite some time as a director. And it just feels so much different than what he does. So I think my expectations were also different as well. So, because I really don't think this, let's see if I still have this quote. When is such violence justified? To get that question to touch the audience physically and directly, what my goal is. In the experience of watching my film, I don't want the viewer to stop at the mental or intellectual. I want them to feel my work physically. And because this is one of my goals, the title exploitive will probably follow me around for a while. And I would say this is very much more focused on the mental and intellectual, and not really, I don't understand how this would be seen as, feeling the work physically. And it's definitely not exploitation.
Yeah, I'd say the violence is not really just. I shouldn't say it's not really justified. It again, it works for the narrative, but it's not exploitive because it's not something that's dwelled upon. But yeah, I agree. It's not. It is definitely more of an intellectual movie, but at the same time, I don't feel like we're the audience for this movie, and not just because you didn't like it, or because I have an issue with Chan-wook Park all of a sudden. But to me, like this is a very personal movie. I'm saying this is not something that's gonna. It's meant for a wide audience, but it's not really going to hit a wide audience. This is gonna find personal viewers. Like to me, I would almost consider this movie like to be the Catcher in the Rye equivalent for young women because it's focused on an adolescent girl, basically, coming of age, finding out who she is, coming to terms with, her personality, her sexual identity, all that stuff, and it's handled in a very confident manner. And again, like you said, it is more of an intellectual movie, but it also touches on a lot of emotional stuff. So I think that this would actually resonate a lot stronger with a younger female audience.
Yeah, it also has the feel to me that it would be like one of those films that does better on the festival circuit, like Cannes, right? That's how you pronounce it.
No, I'm saying even though I tried to correct you on it, I think you're right, and that's just Cannes.
Cannes, yeah. So like the Cannes Festival, and I can't believe I'm blanking on other ones. It wouldn't have made a run at Fantasia, but what's kind of the other elitist film festivals?
I'm blanking on it too now, just because
like Sundance.
Yeah, probably Sundance. Jesus Christ, I'm trying to think of the one that Lars von Trier's been kicked out of.
Yeah,
but yeah, like it's those very kind of upper crust film festivals.
Yeah, and because it has the feel, I'm very much. It might be me being snobbish back to it's kind of consider a critically acclaimed film, and I just don't want to like it because it's critically acclaimed, but it very much has that feel to it, that it's something that is meant for more to become popular in that kind of festival circuit.
Yeah, and like I said, it is a movie designed to reach wide audience. It's not a movie that's really going to isolate viewers. It's just a movie that's going to have more of an impact with certain viewers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I didn't enjoy the second time around, but it sounds like you enjoyed it.
Enjoyed is a strong word. I could appreciate what it was doing.
Yeah.
Like, I will probably never watch this movie again, and I probably won't even give it a second thought after this, honestly.
Oh, like I said earlier, it's not a movie you give a second viewing to, just given the content and the type of movie it is.
Yeah, it's really not. Like I said, and there's just... Again, I could see what it was doing, but there's just nothing there for me to really attach myself to.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can see that. So, are we done on that one, on this film?
I think so, unless you want to shit on it some more.
No. You changed my opinion quite a bit, but...
I'm sorry. I'm saying now I feel like the bad guy in this one, just kind of shitting all over everything. You finally had the chance to take those reins, and I took them away from you.
Yeah, that's all right. So the fun part, rate the 4 films.
Meh.
Like in order of favorite to least favorite.
I'm going to give it kind of a rating. So let's see. There's Lady Vengeance, which is meh. There's I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay, is meh. Thirst, meh. And Stoker, meh. So that's my official. That's my official score. Meh.
I enjoyed all these films quite a bit, except for Stoker. With probably my favorite being I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay. Just because I have a lot of fun with that movie, and it's one I've also enjoyed watching with my wife a few times. Lady Vengeance, which I still think is one of the best Korean revenge films. And then Thirst, which I still thought was solid, and like I said, Stoker is probably my least favorite. So
yeah, honestly, if I were to be serious about this, I would probably recommend, like, because I can't really rate these because I honestly I don't give a shit about any of them. And I think after this, I think I dislike Chan-wook Park as a filmmaker, even though he doesn't make bad movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I would recommend, I'm a Cyborg and Thirst to people. Stoker would be a tough one because, again, I think that's for a very specific audience. That's one I think people need to seek out themselves. Then Lady Vengeance, it found its audience. I don't need to recommend that one. I can say by now everyone's seen it. They know how they feel about it. So
yeah, I think that one's pretty much established, where the other films we covered are not necessarily covered.
Yeah, I'm saying I think, I'm a Cyborg and Thirst are probably ones that people don't necessarily seek out. Because I don't really remember.
I'm a Cyborg, especially the one that people seem to ignore just because it's not like they're aware that it's some sort of romantic comedy and they're not as interested.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't recall hearing much about theirs. I could be wrong about it, but it just was kind of a movie that came out and, people acknowledged that was a Chan-wook Park film, but no one really kind of gave it any attention. It's like, yeah, it's not a revenge movie, so, fuck that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm saying those are two movies I think I would recommend to people.
Yeah. Yep, so I like him as a director, I do have to say. I enjoy his films. Old Boy, I think I don't like as much in a hipster perspective. But like I enjoyed all the films we watched, except for with the acceptance of Stoker. And I probably will still rewatch Lady Vengeance at some point, and I'll probably rewatch I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay at some point down the line. So
yeah, and like I said, I don't think I like his movies. I really don't. I don't think I like him as a filmmaker. But, and it's a big but, he is still a good filmmaker.
Yeah,
his movies have a lot of character and style to them. So
yeah,
it's just me being just a grumpy asshole.
As always.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep, so I don't really have anything more to add here. We almost hit the 2-hour mark, just like we did for our Sono episode, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to say, as much as I want to bitch about it, I'm going to say there was a lot of stuff to talk about in his movies, and I will give him that credit as well. There's a lot of value in discussing his movies.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's, do you think it's fair to say he's unique? Filmmaker?
I think so, because there's not a lot of movies you can say, you can't really say he aped off of someone's style, and you can't say someone aped off of him. He has a very distinct look and style to his movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just know sometimes I unfortunately get the Korean directors mixed up in my mind, but I think that's more my own fault than actually once I'm reminded and look them up. So, because when we were making my notes for a second there, I thought he was the same guy who did Snowpiercer. So
that's okay. I thought the guy who directed The Good, the Bad, the Weird directed Snowpiercer, and he wasn't. Which is odd because we didn't bring him up, but he also made an American movie. It's that Arnold Schwarzenegger one. I can't think of what it's called.
Oh, I had no idea he even did that.
Yeah, I say that now, which I'd be wrong again. But I'm pretty sure he's the guy who made The Good, Bad, and the Weird made that movie where it was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Johnny Knoxville as his sidekick.
Oh, I think I've seen that one.
Yeah,
I have seen that one. I remember it being okay, but...
Yeah, it's an average action movie. Bad guys come to town and Arnold Schwarzenegger's got to kill everybody. Yeah,
exactly. Yep, so I'm sorry you hate him as a director now.
Yeah, and I'm sorry you made me sit through all this goddamn shit.
Well, again, we have to stop. Next time we have to cover a director who only makes an hour and a half films or hour films.
Just need to find somebody who knows how to fucking edit their movies.
Because this is 8. We took 8 hours. That's like a whole working day to get through these films, and then with notes and everything. So. Oh, well, at least we didn't cover 5 films of his, so...
Oh God,
We decided because we had that base that we were okay to go just with 4.
yeah, I'm gonna say I can't imagine how insane with anger I would have been if I would have had to watch another movie.
Well, you said you watched Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance anyways, right?
Yeah, but I did that to kind of satisfy my own curiosity because I was so surprised by my own lack of interest in Return to Lady Vengeance. I was like, well, I would say maybe Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance is any better. And in hindsight, I liked it better, but whatever.
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't really have anything else to say.
Nope.
Okay, well then, thank you very much for listening.